Welcome to the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast. This is your podcast for all things hockey. On this podcast, we talk about past history to the modern day and what you can do to grow the sport. I am your host, Adam Rothstein. All right, let's get to the show. And welcome back to the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast. Today, we are talking about TV's role in hockey. Now, let's begin. So, television was created in the late 30s. And of course, you had movies and such, or like those short silent films where it was discussed, or where it was shown in the of what it was like back then, and you had the words, like if you ever seen the movie Metropolis, you know what I'm talking about. So here's the thing. So after that era of the movies, comes to television, and it comes into the home particularly, and people thought, no, TV's not going to work. It's not going to work. And it's not going to work because here's the thing. They thought, oh, no, people are going to be more occupied with the radio and reading newspapers. Turns out humans get addicted to screens very easily. And thus, TV was made a standard in the home. And then eventually you start seeing hockey games on television. But baseball was the first big one because of how popular it was back in the day. Baseball, boxing, and apparently horse racing. Golf didn't even make it on there, unfortunately. So eventually, during the mid-40s, you begin to see hockey games on television, such as the Rangers, the Blackhawks, and if you were up in Canada, you got Toronto and Montreal. So that was that. And now this left out many markets, many TV markets. St. Louis, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. Maybe you could have caught a game on TV. You certainly weren't getting hockey games in Florida or Alabama or anywhere in the deep South. Certainly not Atlanta, and not for another 30 years would you see that. At least the problem with the old antenna televisions, is that there was like just basic channels, like there were like a few channels, and it was also not there was not enough of a demand for hockey to be on television. I mean, there were only 6 markets in North America. Europe had something, but Europeans definitely had the game of hockey, but not to the extent of what it was in the States and Canada. So to the 50s now. 50s coming around, you still have the original 6 era. It's still pretty much the same. And not until the late 60s do you see colored television. In the 50s, some of the broadcasts, like, they've been able to colorize it, so to speak. But it was still very difficult to track the puck through all that. The cameramen had their issues, and there was no not that level of professionalism that we have today. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So the 60s roll in it in with colored television, and this attracts some uh, new fans to the game. Um, and you close out the original six era in the late 60s as well. So 67 season was the last, 1967 was the last and final year. And then for the 67-68 year, you had the California Golden Seals, later renamed the Oakland Seals, and then the California Golden Seals. They couldn't decide on the name. And by the way, if you haven't heard, that team doesn't exist anymore. It wasn't rebranded. It wasn't moved. It just vanished, dispersed into nothingness. So I thought you might know that. Okay, so the LA Kings were also a part of that. The Minnesota North Stars, which are now the Dallas Stars, the Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins, and St. Louis Blues. So there were now 6 new markets for the NHL. Also, the NHL could broadcast its games to millions of more viewers. So expansion certainly did help during this era, and you had the local networks broadcasting those games, and it certainly grew the sport. Now today, a city, St. Louis has certainly become an excellent hockey city, with the Blues winning the Stanley Cup back in 2019. It certainly has, and it's a good thing that they came into existence. But there were still a lot of other cities that could have gone there as well during this time. Baltimore, here's a fun fact. Baltimore actually initially was going to get an NHL team. LA got an NHL team. And eventually LA was always going to get an NHL team, but the reason Baltimore never got it was because of the old Bullets Arena. They didn't update it, and because Baltimore didn't find a way to update that arena, they lost out to it with LA. So yeah. Okay, there's that. Also during this time, you did have some. I mean, sometimes you were able to catch an AHL game on during the 80s or 70s as well, and there were certainly some clips of them as well. So it did still find its way on television as well. Some of the AHL stuff, apparently. Okay, so we have that. And so the 70s, color TV becomes the standard. More games can be watched at home. You have fans from the West Coast and the East Coast watching games now, and you've got you also have more teams too coming in to the league, like the Flames, the Atlanta Flames, the Capitals, because Baltimore did not update its arena, but DC got it, was the next closest city. So that's where they got it. That's where they went. You had the Flames as well, and then slowly you had the WHA teams come into the league as well, and then that also expanded. Also, before that, in the late 70s, yeah, that WHA era, the Golden Jet with the Winnipeg Jets, apparently, still, you still had that overtime as well, and that certainly boosted its television ratings. So you had 2 leagues broadcasted on television, and also I forgot what I was going to say. And also, it's kind of like the XFL version. The WHA was sort of the XFL to the NHL as well. So today we have the XFL and the NFL, and I guess arena football as well. And today and back then you had the WHA, the World Hockey Association. So you had many international players come in through that system. Also, eventually get integrated with the NHL, and from there the NHL had its expansion with Flames Capitals, and eventually the Atlanta Flames would make their way to Calgary as well. And you also had teams like the Jets as well. But in the NHL, you had teams like the Islanders come in, and they were always part of the NHL. And their rivalry with the Rangers was nothing short of special. So continuing on, we moved to the 80s and the 90s. So the 1980s, cable television. You got cable television as well coming on, and it becomes the standard. You have MTV coming out. You have VH1 as well, and in music videos as well, and more channels as well. Late 80s, you actually had Nickelodeon come around as well. But sports still became its standard, and even if you were a little out of market, you can actually see the game. So if you were in, let's say, I'm trying to think. If you were in like Virginia, you could still get a Capitals game as well. And if you were and if you were in Florida, you could, well, eventually you would still get some games as well with the Panthers and the Lightning when they came into the league. But after the but a little before that, you still had, some way of watching hockey on TV, even though you did not really have a team then. So it still came on. You could still watch it. Because with more of the channels expanding. Okay, let's see. So the 90s were there, and and during that time you had about 21 NHL teams. 2000s roll around. Guess what also rolls around? Satellite TV. It becomes a standard premium way to watch TV. If you wanted to watch a sports game that was taking place in LA, but you were on the East Coast, you could do that with the premium package, such with the Dish Network and DirecTV. So that became the standard. Also, during the 90s, there was the the glow puck as well. Or it and here's okay, it's not the glow puck. There were effects on television in the 90s when it started to expand into cities such as Tampa Bay. On television, they put like a blue, they put like a red, streak effect as well, and the blue streak effect as well. So all the effects on there seem to be pointless, and they got rid of it as soon as possible. When like the Ducks, after slowly a few seasons after the Ducks came into the league as well. So it was red. I believe it was a red. And actually, I'm going to look this up right now on Google. So I'll come back to that. Yeah. So yeah, it was a red and blue streak back then. So color NHL puck effect 1990s TV. Didn't think about this. So it was a Fox Tracks. So because the NHL was on Fox for so long, in the late 90s, and so the pucks. So there was a quick flash of a slap shot that accompanied by a laser beam sound effect. That was insulting. It was very insulting to hockey fans. Believe me, it was not. It's very insulting to say, "Look here. Here's a slap shot. So a laser beam sound effect, one that may have been recorded by a child playing with a Boba Fett figurine. And I'm just reading from this article here. As the puck flies through the air, it's trailed by a glowing red tail. Yes, on January 20th, the voiceover announces with the great confidence, you will witness the biggest technological breakthrough in sports. Just okay. To any of the brand managers out there or anyone doing anything with new technology, just because you have it doesn't mean you should necessarily do it. And here's and this is a pretty good example of this, like we see what a slap shot is. We don't need to wait half a second for you to put a color filter on the puck to show what kind of shot it was. It insults not only the the fans that grew up with hockey, but also the newcomers. Like, oh, let me hold your hand intellectually and walk you through this because you might be ignorant on it. So it was very insulting during that time. So I'm going further here. The glowing puck was Fox's fault. Soon after the NHL broadcasting rights in 1994, Fox Sports president David Hill began discussions with Stan Honey, then executive vice president after developing a system to track the puck. The thing with hockey is that you need to just get better cameramen, and eventually they did as well. So this was the dark ages of CGI. The engineers tasked with making a hockey puck glow were skeptical when they first heard about it. I mean, there even was a glow puck as well, and I'll actually just show this briefly in a moment. Let me get this up here, and we'll go through this article a little bit. Okay. So here is a glow puck, and this is the most insulting thing you'll see ever. So right here were the little holes, if you can see them right along there, and these lights would glow based on the certain puck. Relations reports that approximately 35 pucks get slapped around each game, whatever the exact number, the high volume of tracking it. On the other side, the engineers didn't have to worry about cooperating long-lasting batteries to fret too much about the durability. Okay, so actually, let's watch this little video here.
Ticks down to 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Solani in again. Big shot, he scores! The game is tied!
Be surprised, we're at the midpoint of the first period. No goals scored, but look at the quality of the goaltending.
Lindros scores on a pass to... Oh, a score! Lemieux fed it across. Big shot by Rubicki, scores! And so Gretzky in the final 2:45 of this first period. 17 shots to 10, the East. They lead 2-0. Nolan a drive and a save made by Brodeur. Gives it over to Pat Verbeek. Mellanby breaks for the net. Messier, a shot, went off the lane. Rebound, score! And ahead with this is Hull. Got it across to Forsberg. Hits the iron with the shot. He can rocket him 82 miles an hour. Stick and fed wide of Van Beesbrook off a board. One-timer by Lidstrom, and that one went wide.
Okay, so you see that, and actually I'll stop the share there, and we'll go back to the 2000. Okay, hold on. Shoot. And I just lost that. We'll go to the 2000s real quickly. And so yes, satellite TV was coming in there. Cable such as Comcast was the standard. You could get more channels even with cable packages. but basic cable was still the standard for the early 2000s. And the 2010s, you still had satellite TV and that, and Comcast still had its thing. So it didn't really change much from then. But once streaming came into now today we have streaming and we get like stuff like Hulu with live sports, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, all this stuff, and it was and it's pretty good because you can easily get more out of market games as well, or that exclusive ESPN Plus NHL game, or whatever's on ABC as well. So you can still see those sort of like exclusives. So you don't have to necessarily subscribe to, let's say, the Blues are playing the Wild or something, or rather, how about this? Or the Flyers are playing the Rangers, and you're out of market. You're in Florida, like yours truly, and you want to see the game, but it's not on your local network. You can do that with streaming. So if you have like ESPN Plus or Hulu with live sports and it's on that streaming service, you can watch it and you don't have to subscribe to the NHL network. You can still get it with the standard Disney Plus or Hulu, and you don't have to pay for another streaming service. So it has its pluses and minuses. You still can't get all out of market games too. That's the downside. DirecTV has certainly, in a way, become a streaming service as well. Thought I'd mention that. Let's see here. So today there are 32 NHL teams. So some markets overlap with each other. The Ducks and the Kings certainly do so. The Islanders, Devils, and Rangers, and even the Flyers all sort of get into that tri-state area. So you have the Devils, the Islanders, the Rangers, and the Flyers all there in that tri-state area. And that is a bit of a stretch because Long Island is still, Long Island, but you're still all within that tri-state area of as well. And the Lincoln Tunnel is not that far from Madison Square Garden. So you sort of get both games as well. So you can still watch. Now, to go back to the streaming service, you can still subscribe to NHL.com if you exclusively want hockey. So there's that. Now, with the 32 teams, some of the markets still overlap, but you have much more different markets. And if you're out in like Utah, let's say, you would root for you might actually get both the Coyotes and the Avalanche as well. If you're in Winnipeg, you obviously root for the Jets. If you're in Wisconsin, actually, here's an interesting thing. I think you might root for the Red Wings. I think that would take priority over the Wild as well. If you're in Texas, you're all stars all around you, and I guess if you have and the market would extend to Louisiana and Arkansas and Oklahoma or New Mexico or something as well. Tennessee's market is the Predators and all around there. Even Southern Ohio, like Cincinnati, I guess their market would still be technically the Blue Jackets, but they'd also could still pick up a Predators game as well. So sort of like two teams in one. If you're in Florida, you actually get both the Lightning and the Panthers, or at least in the West Palm area. If you're there, you'll get to view both on Bally Sports, and Bally Sports is a great network too. So there's that. All right. All right. So I have an article on this as well. If you want to read more on this, I did not talk about the Glow Puck in that article. So I thought I'd mention that on my Substack. So definitely go to that as well. And if you want to read more about that, and definitely, just sign up for your email. Even if it's for free, I'll still post stuff out to you and as well. Now, this specific article is going to be posted in the link in the description. Now, here's the thing. When you subscribe with your email, you can get access to everything else I've posted. Now, if you're on the free version of my Substack, you can only access what was free. But if you want to access everything else, plus the new premium content that I'll be putting out as well, you can definitely subscribe for $5 a month or $50 a year if you want to get your first 2 months free. So I recommend doing that for the extra, not, the extra 2 months for free. So when you subscribe on the yearly plan, and I think that is the best thing. So it's still $5 a month. And if you want to just do it for a month trial, guess what? You can cancel at any time. So there's you have nothing. So there's no risk. There's little to no risk in trying this. Hey, if it doesn't work out, please feel free to cancel. But I still am encouraging you. Please subscribe for $5 a month because you get access to all the premium stuff, and you can still go back and read over my other stuff, get access to the bonus episodes, and get as well. And I think that's just very important. And if you as well, and some other videos too. So, which I occasionally post, but hey, you get all that content, all for $5 a month, and you have access to everything new. And I post, and you'll get like 8 articles a month, and you get access to the bonus episodes as well. In addition to, and so once again, please subscribe over at Substack at rothsteina.substack.com. That's ROTHSTEINA.substack.com. So I'll have that this particular TV article in the show notes or description if you're on YouTube. And and tell your friends to subscribe to this podcast, rate this 5 stars, write a little review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that like button, comment, and do all that jazz. And I will see you all in the next episode of the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast. Take care.